Hello, welcome to Guardrail Concero podcast studio. We're excited to have you joining us. My name is Sam. I'm the founder at Guardrail. Guardrail is a real-time security monitoring platform. We're building a podcast series to showcase the partners we work with, the customers we work with, the brilliant space that we're in. And I'm super excited to welcome Andy from Concero, who's joined us today. Tell us a bit about Concero and to talk us more about what it's been like using Guardrail and securing themselves. So, welcome, Andy. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. Thank you very much for having me. Quick intro. I'm Andy. I'm one of the founders of Concero, and what Concero is an interoperability solution that allows any chain to get integrated in under half an hour, and it costs less than $1. So we're the most scalable interoperability solution out there, looking to solve the problem of the Internet of Chains and to empower the app chain and specialized chain future that we're seeing at Revel now. And we've been working with Guardrail for a while now. I've known Sam for quite a bit of time now, and they've been a pleasure to work with. So excited to sit down and talk on camera and talk a bit more about what we do, talk a bit more about you guys, and basically security and interoperability as well.
Love that background and interoperability and security. I think is a buzzword comes up all the time. So
Oh,
let's
wow.
let's peel off a couple of layers and go deeper into this. Um, I think for the audience, interoperability, interop, as commonly called, could be a pretty loaded term. So, what is Concero's like product today? Where are you at in terms of building the product? And I know you're the founder, so thanks for the time. I know you guys are really busy also.
Of course. Well, interoperability, like just to boil it down to very like core functionalities. You have a monolithic distributed system on one side, aka blockchain, and you have a monolithic distributed system on the other side, aka another blockchain. They cannot natively accept data from the outside world, neither can they give out data to the outside world natively. So, what interoperability solutions do is enable communication between one and the other in a decentralized and trustless way. And what we are doing is essentially we're taking a slightly different, very different approach as to the architecture of the entire, process and how messages get passed. And messages are essentially instructions. You want to send something from chain, like an event on chain A to trigger an event on chain B. There has to be a message that is sent from one chain to another. Right, and then on top of messaging, you build other solutions that enable bridging, for example, which I think most users, that's how you commonly interact with interoperability solutions, right? When you have, I don't know, X amount of tokens on one side, on one chain, and you want to send them to the other. But I think what sets us apart is that we're trying to get rid of the monolithic solutions that are prevalent right now, because those solutions are turning out to be quite obsolete in the current market conditions. Because monolithic solutions essentially what they are. And actually, let's take a bit of context. Like, what needs to happen for it for a message to be passed from one chain to another? Well, first of all, it has to enter a smart contract where it can be identified by some actor, it can be read by some actor, it can be validated by some actor, then it can be relayed to the destination chain by some actor, then it can be written onto the destination chain by some actor. And monolithic solutions, what they do is they essentially give the power to execute all of the five steps to one network of nodes, right? Yes, it is a decentralized network. You have many different node operators there, but for every single transaction, a node is chosen at random or at different ways of choosing a node, but it executes the entirety of the transaction. Um, I find that to be quite suboptimal due to a number of reasons. First of all, that node becomes the essential, source of truth. Yes, you do provide a cryptographic or an economic or a ZK proof to prove the transaction, but it is a single point of failure and it is not very upgradable. What does that mean? That means that if you want to integrate a new chain, you need to essentially incentivize or somehow convince a substantial amount of nodes within your network to start supporting that chain. And what does it mean? Well, first of all, they need to spin up an RPC, right? That takes time, cost, and compute. They need to enable validation for this new chain. and they need to all start supporting it. And when the chain is just launching, it's not going to have enough volume going through it. It's not going to be a profitable endeavor for the node operator. Therefore, the process of actually integrating the chain is quite expensive because you need to incentivize those nodes to do that, and it is quite long. And if we see where the market is shifting right now, the rate at which new chains are being deployed, and the whole app chain and specialized chain thesis, where the dominance of the top 10 chains is going to be withering away as volume is spread out more widely, because for value generating apps, protocols, asset issuers, it makes more sense to deploy their own L2, where they can control the stack, where they can control essentially their own ledger. um, as that essentially becomes more prevalent, those solutions cannot really keep up with the supply of these chains and with the supply of these value generating actors. And therefore, what we have done is we have broken down the process into three actors. Actor number one is RPC providers, actor number two is the operator, and actor number three is the validator. And relatively soon, this whole system is going to be fully permissionless. So anyone will be able to join as an RPC provider, anyone will be able to join as a validator, anybody will be able to join as the operator. And what they do is when a chain is launched, it has RPC providers. It works with somebody for their RPC infrastructure, but that heavy compute of RPC is essentially offloaded to specialized RPC providers, and the heavy compute of validation is offloaded to specialized validators, right? Because once teams and companies can hyper focus on their speciality, for example, if you're a cryptographer, right, or you're a validator, you're very good at validation, right? And you need to work on that and work until it's done, until it's the best, because this is your bread and butter validation. For RPC providers, bread and butter is the uptime, how quickly you can fetch new transactions, and what's your fail rate like, right? As an operator, you're essentially acting as this little middleman between all of that. Because the way that our transactions work is, say that there is a transaction traveling from chain A to chain B. Within the transaction, you will specify the source chain, the destination chain, you will specify the message itself, and then you will specify which RPC provider, or default like consensus of all RPC providers, and which validator is responsible for executing that transaction. It could be, I don't know, Chainlink's decentralized soft-chain compute, like CLF, CRE, or something like that. You can set up your own validation set, like write validator code and deploy it onto Symbiotic, Eigen Cloud, or something like that. And there are many, many different options, and those different options will have different qualities. Some will be cheaper, some will be faster, some will be more secure, but it essentially gives the sovereignty of choice to the value generating protocol and app to decide what
Mm,
sort of specification they need for this particular transaction. It's not a one size fits all solution, because for some transactions you need speed, for some transactions you need security, for some transaction you need cost. And by specifying who is validating within the transaction itself, you make the system quite upgradable, right? Because imagine if a new validator comes out, right? You won't need to rip everything out and then reintegrate it, re-audit it, and redeploy it. You can just change one variable within the transaction itself, and suddenly you're upgradable, right? Imagine if you're an RWA provider and you have, tokenized some assets onto your own L2, but you want to distribute it to as many chains as possible, but you have some regulatory compliance that you have to go through on the infrastructure level. So you need to control your own validation. This is why, for example, Circle has developed CCTP, right? First of all, they want to retain the control of burn and mint rights within the company. Second of all, they need to run checks on their off-chain compute,
mhm,
right? So you as an integrator, you can choose to do your own validation, or you can choose to work with some specialized validation companies. You can choose to work with our other RPC providers, or set up your own RPCs, right? You can upgrade as you go along, but it won't. The upgrade is seamless and it's very, very easy. And I think that's what's important. So an
mm,
operator sees a transaction come in, identifies there is a transaction going from A to B, sends a trigger to the validation, to the appropriate validator. The validator spins up, through an RPC goes and validates what it sees in chain A. Then it provides a tamper-proof report. And what is meant by a tamper-proof report is because we know all of the public keys of the underlying nodes that are validating transactions within these validation networks. And they obviously with their private keys, they sign the report, and the hash sum of that report is a known quantity. And then that report is picked up by the operator and delivered to the destination chain, where on the smart contract level, we see if the hash sum matches. If the hash sum doesn't match, that means that operator has tampered with the transaction. Transaction is
Yeah,
reversed. If it matches, that means the transaction is genuine. Transaction should go through. And
for
that's
sure.
another key point of splitting this job into three actors. That means that there is not a single actor that has the de facto control over what transaction is true, what transaction is not. And the only way for a transaction to go through is for all actors to act genuinely, right? Because unless they do, if they do not, the transaction will be reverted and they will be losing money,
Yeah.
essentially. And yeah, that's how it works. It's a bit of a mouthful. Still working on the pitch a little bit, but yeah, if you have
I,
further
th I
questions,
think
fine.
we want to go as deep as possible. So that's really well put. I think the parts that jumped out at me that I took away, one is it's decentralized. So you don't have those points of failure, and it's not an IOU kind of typical bridge, right? You're able to do things in a decentralized manner. Um, the second part of the fact that it's decentralized means you're just getting better performance as the user on both sides of the bridge. And that's important because you want as good of a performance as you can. At the end of the day, users can pick from any bridge, any ecosystem by going with something like Concero. It's decentralized, so you're getting some guarantees there. It's performance first by the design that it is, and then the third, which is really nice, is that it's upgradable, which means incremental updates are always something you can roll in. And I know anybody who's been in crypto can relate with protocol upgrades being kind of fragmenting liquidity or causing other kinds of issues. Here you've got kind of all three in this interop kind of paradigm, and it's the part that I personally really like is just how scalable Concero is because, of course, you're getting decentralized, you're getting the fact that it's upgradable, you're getting the performance, but as a user, you're just getting access to every chain that you can think of very easily, right? The scale, the fact that somebody else is building a new ecosystem and you can bridge to it, you can start doing activity on that immediately, is the part that gets me as a user like really excited about it.
Exactly, and the point is because I think the core difference is in the actual mental model of who we align our incentives with, right? Because interoperability protocols that are currently prevalent, they're very aligned with the chains, right? Because they work directly with chains, and chains are essentially their customers. I think, well, I think that is not the best move because chains are essentially the ledgers and the backends upon which value is created. Like
Hmm.
the three value generating actors within this entire um, industry are apps and protocols, are assets and asset issuers, and users, right? And
Hmm.
all of the and chains are infra. Is what sits in the middle between the asset issuer, the protocol, and the user, right? So by aligning ourselves with the protocols rather than the chains, with those who generate value, because they will want sovereignty. Because look, like right now, if I'm an asset issuer and I want to use some interoperability protocol, they will probably ask me to adopt their token standard, right? What does
Hmm.
that mean? That interoperability protocol now suddenly has sole burn and mint rights of my asset, which I'm deploying, which I'm
Yeah,
fiscally and legally responsible for. That's not
yeah,
something that apply, right? Like
totally.
apps, apps and protocols and assets will bend infrastructure to their desires, and they will ensure that they retain sovereignty, and they will ensure that infra serves them, not the other way around.
Hmm.
And I think, yeah, with our architecture, we're essentially preparing ourselves for this future, because we believe that that's the way it will be and the way it should be. Because exist like I this app chain paradigm and this this specialized chain narrative, I think, is existentially important for the industry to scale, for new use cases to arise, for all of these Web2 fintechs to come in. Like they will not adopt like they will not deploy into Ethereum. They will deploy into their own chains. But
Hmm.
what our scalable architecture, you can deploy your own chain, and then by day one, you will have the same distribution as everybody else, right? You will be able to to connect to any user, no matter the ecosystem, right? You will get access to the same depth of liquidity as any other chain. So those walled gardens that chains are becoming now, where they with incentives attract users, and then they want to retain those users, and they try to lock that liquidity and all that stuff. Those walled gardens are going to fall, right? Because
Hmm.
chains will not be the distribution. Chains will essentially be the backend, and
Mm. Super
that's kind
exciting
of.
paradigm change. I mean, I think that level of scale and that level of interop, I'm really glad we went into that level of detail because interoperability feels like a very loaded term, but I think we now can actually visualize uh, the after, considering that we're at the before right now. So I love that. Switching gears into kind of security and how that touches interop, right? Concero is already live and growing. It's you've been through several iterations of design. I'm curious, how do you tend to find a security product, and is that something that they find you or you find them? And then when you find one, how do you test a security product to know that it's a good fit for you guys?
Well, we're live with our V1. V2 is going. It's in testnet now, but we're going mainnet hopefully in November. We'll see. But security is very important overall, but especially in interoperability, because most of value loss that we have seen in this industry has been from interoperability, right? Well, because it's a very big problem, and because there is a lot of value flow that is happening through these bridges. I think it is important to distinguish between actual security and faux security. Like, is it security theater, or is it problem solving and being ready for if something happens, and actually securing your protocol? Because with the solution like Guardrail, what I really like about it, it's quite non-invasive, right? And essentially, like, crypto and blockchains are quite deterministic, right? You know what the input is, and you know what the expected output is, right? And you set up a guard to make sure that as enters this Pandora's box, which are all of these protocols and stuff like that, is the output as we expected? Because we know it's like invariant testing, right? If we know that the output is different, that means something is wrong, right? And if we can put in a circuit breaker like Guardrail in this process, and as soon as something is wrong, we will pull the plug essentially, in some way or the other. But at least we're notified. That
Mhm.
that means that we can then go and rectify the problem. Thankfully, it hasn't happened yet. And I know there will be a lot of founders out there that will say, "Oh, it will never happen to us" and stuff. But I've been around for long enough to know that it's better be prepared than to be sorry, and no one is insured against it. All you can do is prepare. Yeah, audits, yes, and variant testing and stuff like that. But most of the security, for some reason, happens before the deployment, right? Audits this, contests that, and variant testing this, and variant. But the point is, as the industry grows, and especially in our case, as more and more chains get integrated, right? Those chains have different designs and different perks and features and all of that stuff. You don't know, like, you do know, but what will the chains look like in 3 years, right? The contract is still going to be deployed, so it is important to have those, what I call sanity checks, what you call guards, to make sure that everything is running smoothly for that peace of mind. And most importantly, and I think Guardrail is a good, like, initial, like, warning sign, like something's wrong, like, but then, like, just for those who are building out there, write out protocols of, like, in case this happens, this is what we do. This is like step by step by step by step. This is our incident response. This is how we handle these situations. Because no one wants a security breach. But as more value goes on chain, as more interest goes on chain, more people are interested in extracting that value, and more people are interested in hacking, right? Because there's just a bigger prize nowadays. So yeah, don't think that you're invincible. None of us are. Uh, and better be safe than sorry.
That's really well said. Um, the thing that I like to tell teams is, once you go live, your contract is essentially like an AWS Lambda that nobody can take down. It's just constantly on. Anybody can ping it. Your contract can be used as a composable piece of Lego anywhere, right? And even if you built your code perfectly, you have no idea what somebody else is going to do with it,
Yeah,
and you're relying on somebody else's code in general. That's always going to be like a risk that you're taking. And you can build the safest component, but if it's combined in an unsafe manner, that's going to
yeah,
be your weakest link. And that's why Guardrail is basically like a central nervous system, right? It's like it's giving you that impulse of, okay, something is happening. You can choose to react, you can choose to stay still, but without that central nervous system, you're basically numb, right?
yeah.
Something could happen, something could not happen, and you're just basically unaware. So I think our whole goal is to make Guardrail like as available as possible so that everybody has a central nervous system. And some teams are hypersensitive, right? They've got 5 to 6 people ready to go the minute an alert comes in. Other teams are very wait and watch. They have one person with an on-call that can kind of make a decision for the whole team. So, there we work with you. We design the right response paradigms so that, regardless of who you are, we're adaptable to fix Guardrail to your requirements. Um, the other perspective, which I think really drives it home, is the fact that every hack that happens is always a new headline because of how large that number is. Even a small hack these days is like $1 million, and that's kind
Yeah.
of can feel like the team has disappointed users. You spent months, sometimes even years, building a community, and even if the community loses, 50K to 100K, it can hurt. But most hacks are like $1 million plus. And if you think about the cost of something like Guardrail, it's like maybe 1% of that. It's a fraction of that is what we're able to do. It's cheaper than an audit. It's cheaper than the cost of a hack, and you're getting 12 months of monitoring. It's not that you're paying all that amount for like an hour of support. We're basically Guardrail is going to be in the trenches with you for 12 months for the fraction of the cost of an audit or the fraction of the cost of a hack. And if you think about it that way, the amount you pay for a market maker, the amount you pay for everything else, you can definitely afford to pay a very small amount to have like your protocol continuously watched.
Look, I think it's unfortunately you guys are in a very in a very how do I say it, interesting space, right? Because no one likes to really think about security. Because we all think, oh, because we all think about like features, like what is this new value generation that I can, and usually people start thinking about security after a breach, after they are breached, because we all like we all have to be hyper aware. Like, look, what happened to me, I think I told you this in private, like a couple of months ago, and I'm like the most paranoid person with my keys, my wallets, and stuff like that. But someone took my like Twitter cookie from my Chrome because someone was on my computer for like less than 3 seconds. Like it was a breach. They took my like Twitter cookie. Like thankfully, like everything else was like super secure and stuff like that, right? And they were able to take over my personal Twitter. They deleted it. Like it was a whole hassle to like reinstate it. And I've been doing this for like 7 years now, and I've been taking like personal security measures very, very seriously when it comes to my laptop and my tag and my keys and stuff like that. Still, it happens. We're all humans after all, right? And the point is, it's you have to prepare. Like prepared is better than wishful thinking, right? It's we invest into security not because our code is bad or not because we're not certain in our product. No, we like you invest into security because you understand the reality, right? And the reality is I'd rather overspend a little in security than run this risk of, you know, unproportional losses, be it reputational, be it financial, and be it emotional as well. Like I know some founders that whose projects were drained, it destroys you. Like you can't sleep at night. Like
Yeah.
literally. Like it's heartbreaking. And here we are in this space trying to, and all of us are like super motivated to like build this future, this decentralized, trustless, transparent, very fair future. And I love that, right? And yeah, but then a thing like this can really, really, really impact you
Yeah.
emotionally, financially, like everything. So don't be greedy. Don't think that you're too big. Don't think that you're too smart and you don't make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Invest into security.
Yeah. I love that. That is the headline of the podcast. You're never too big or too small for security. Um, I mean, I 100% agree with this because I think we're no longer in that paradigm where, you can build, and then feature freeze for 2, 3 weeks, do security, and then launch. Nowadays, we're shipping code day in and day out, and that's like the sign of a good company is someone's innovating, right? So
Yeah.
security has to kind of be built into that innovation, has to be weaved in, um, and I think the there's a lot of founders I know that are really paranoid about security because they are worried that they have nation states watching them. They have those Zoom attacks of trying to get them to join certain meetings, right? Um, and rather than living in a state of paranoia, I think what Guardrail is trying to do is help founders sleep better. And we're not a mattress company, but we're trying to do something else, which is use guardrails so that although we can't control your bed or your mattress, but we can give you really good peace of mind so that when you're away, guardrails watching your contracts and we're able to jump in and protect you is kind of what I would say. Um,
And I think the great feature of Guardrail is that it's real time, right? It's not just a rubber stamp, and obviously just using like it's part of the whole security process for a team. Like, you, but when it's real time and you are certain that if something happens, you're notified, and there is like measures in place to combat that problem, this really, really, really helps, especially in an iterative development cycle, right? You're less hesitant to push code. You're less hesitant to update your code. You're less hesitant to grow, right? And you need that. Like, I don't think because teams ship 24/7, as you said. Like we ship a lot. We ship a lot, like mostly into testnet now, but even when we're in mainnet, we ship a lot. We will not be able to compete if we build like we were building back in 2020 even, right? When you would have like a protocol iterate every year and a half, big update, and then kind of living off of that. You just cannot. Iterative cycles are here, and it's no longer an option to not do things real time. It's no longer an option to not push code constantly, and it's no longer an option not to have real-time security, right? You can like look, you're gonna go bankrupt if you're gonna pay for audits for every single you do. I'm sorry, like audits are so expensive, right? And it's
Certainly.
so you need a solution like this.
Amazing, amazing. Well, let's move to wrapping this up, Andy. I mean, I think you've shared amazing insights on Interop, and personally, like I learned a bunch hearing you describe exactly how Concero works. I think for the audience, there's a ton of alpha on how to view security if you're launching something. Maybe tell us, out of all the risks that you view that are kind of existential for Concero, what is in your mind like the biggest risk, and then how has like Guardrail been able to kind of like give you some peace of mind on that? Um, just because I think like sure we have all the features, we have the AI, we have real time, but like you're buying this because it's solving some problem for you. So like, what's that one problem that you're like, this is why I even took the call, and then this is like now this problem is solved for me.
Well, I have two answers to this. Number one, the biggest existential risks to Concero is our engineering team getting girlfriends. Number one existential risk. And the second risk that actually Guardrail helps with, look, we're interop, right? You have something on one chain, you need to push it to the other chain. More often than not, it is financial. It's either assets or it is obligations or whatever, right? It's like if we screw up, people lose money, right? If input is smaller than the output, something is wrong, right? If it like the point is, once a vulnerability is found, it can be exploited super quickly and for a lot of money. We cannot afford not to constantly think about it and constantly monitor this. So yeah, I think that's if the input is the same as the output, we're good. I think this is the number one like peace of mind that we have, because everything else is, yeah, we install guards on like separate pieces of the infrastructure and stuff like that. But the overall input equal output, we're good. That just gives you peace of mind.
Nice. I think when people watch this, they're gonna look up the Twitter handle Deterministic Andy. I think that's gonna be your new nickname, Mr. Deterministic. But this is really really interesting, and thanks so much. I know we're at time now, but um, I can't wait for everyone to watch this and learn more about Concero. Um, you're gonna before you know it, you're gonna see Concero all over the space, and we're happy to also have Guardrail grow along with Concero on the cybersecurity journey. Thanks so much, Andy.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a blast. And yeah, I mean, it's Thursday for us. I don't know when you're watching it, but have a good weekend. And yeah, thanks for having me, guys.